Welcome to Lest We Forget, the DailyNewsCollective.com's audio podcast of the weekly headlines, brought to you by your host, Jon Bowne, and a special guest. This week's special guest, former goat herder, rocket launching executive, spent a lot of time in a Turkish prison, all-around propaganda artist with the questionable site Infowars.com.
That conspiracy theorist website, Infowars.
It's Darrin McBreen.
Man, like always, where do we begin?
Well, let's
talk about.
It's always a week chock full of crazy fun, isn't it? So we go back to the beginning of the week, which is turns out to be, if I can get the calendar right here. What month are we in? It's June.
Bilderberg month.
Bilderberg week. Yeah. So it's June. Today is we're speaking on the Saturday, the 13th, and the week began on the 8th of June. And we go back to the 8th of June. And the week started out, let's see, on Monday, pre-Bilderberg, started out with that, I don't know if you want to speak on this, but it's that chaotic SWAT team artist up there at the Texas pool party. Did you see that incident where there are a bunch of black kids just having a good old time at a pool party, you know, what kids do in the summertime, and the neighbor came out, called the police, and said that they need to go back to their Section 8 housing, which the majority of the kids live in that neighborhood, and then called the police on them. And then this cop who had been on scene of 2 suicides earlier in the day is just rolling around on the ground like he's in a SWAT team video, and then he pulls one girl down to the ground and then pulls his gun out on a couple of teenagers, and now he's resigned. And
the first thing that comes to mind to me is I know a lot of people hate to hear this, but it's not always a black-white thing. You know, it's always the cops are after. I know they do. The black people are targeted by cops, but you and I both know it's all of us, man.
Yeah.
You know, you have a lemonade stand, the cops are going to come shut you down. So it's not, and they always try to make it a you know, to bring in the race right, or bring in the whole race issue. And we're all being attacked by police, and the police are just out of control nationwide.
Well, and not only that, then their overlords, the government, Obama, who claims to be the most non-divisive president in history, and then he turns around and uses rhetoric left and right, and you've done.
They should have had a rim shot.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. But, you know, it also reminds me, and it is also worldwide. You know, we got the crew out there right now, out there in Austria, the Bilderberg conference. And I'm sure you've seen the reports out there where journalists are being treated like total criminals.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the real criminals, I mean, some of the worst criminals, like Kissinger and everything, they're protecting these guys.
Not an exaggeration.
And treating journalists like mobsters.
Yeah, not an exaggeration. It is a mafia culture that we're dealing with, and it's a naked mafia corporatocratic culture. They brought the corporatocracy and married it into the underground mafia elements, and that's what we're looking at worldwide. I heard a recent interview. I'll move away from this because this is kind of off topic, but I heard a recent interview that they're going to be coming out with a movie about Putin and his thuggery, and it's just amazing how it represents how similar his rise to power is that of the mafia. But anyway.
Well, if it's Sony Pictures, which I don't know, but I think it's very interesting. You know, Operation Mockingbird was a CIA infiltration of the media, and this goes way back 50s, 60s, and we know that has only escalated over the years. And we know from WikiLeaks, and I love reading through these WikiLeaks documents, man. They're always very interesting, and there's there's a whole record of emails from sources in the Obama administration and going back and forth to executives in Sony Pictures and also Disney. And it flat out says that Obama needs help to control the narrative, was the precise words, control the narrative on ISIS, right, on what's going on with ISIS in Syria, and also with the whole Russia, Kiev, that whole incident in Ukraine, right? So this just pretty much tells everyone that there's no doubt that they're in there with the use of mainstream media and even movies to help people to basically control them into believing certain narratives, right?
Well, not only that, now we're actually under, the Smith-Mundt Act, that old act that kept America out of harm's way of domestic propaganda that the U.S. is pushing onto the rest of the world. That was quietly struck down. So now, you can't, if you're aware of that, if people are aware of that, you're going to have to take a second look at every movie now that comes out.
Well, and here's the thing about with the movies too is you got a lot of people out there that don't necessarily watch the news, and if they watch the news on major network television, they're very confused and they're not getting the real deal anyway. Mm-hmm. But if a lot of people have a strong political opinion without ever even reading a newspaper or watching the news, and it's formed through their favorite television shows and through movies like American Sniper, Zero Dark 30, and who knows what's going to come out next, on the ISIS situation. They're going to fabricate that. But people go to those movies and hey man, it might as well be the gospel truth. Lady was cutting my hair a couple weeks ago, nicest lady, and we just started talking about how her kids were in town and they're going to watch a movie, and she says, I want my son to see American Sniper because I think that man is the best example of a true man, and he is what every man should be like. And I'm looking forward to my son seeing American Sniper, and it's like, it's a fiction. It's not even real.
Yeah,
but it's very powerful with the use of motion pictures. It's very, very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, we Americans are rolling over and having their tummies rubbed. That's basically, yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off, man, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about Bilderberg because I thought this was exciting. Yeah. How we have.
We'll talk about that, and then we'll get into ISIS because that's coming up in the week. But go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do both. But Bilderberg right now, I thought it was very interesting. This morning, I'm going through looking at headlines and everything, and the Washington Post is covering Bilderberg.
Oh, really?
Why?
Okay.
Because we forced them to. Of course,
right.
They've been ignoring
so RT was
for how many years now?
RT was the only other one covering it, right?
Well, of course, RT.
In the Guardian.
But listen, what do you think is in their title and in the title on Washington Post? What word do you think would be in there?
Conspiracy.
Oh, you guessed it. You guessed it.
Did I hit it?
Bilderberg. Oh, yeah. Look, Bilderberg Group meets amid conspiracy theories, heavy security, and news blackout.
Yeah.
Well, news blackout, that should be a red flag right there to most people. Why is there a news blackout? And here's the Washington Post basically saying, look, these guys, they don't even have time. They're so busy, like they're going to have enough time to talk about world government. I mean, they're just there to kind of throw some policies back and forth and just try to, their opinion on stuff. It's all, they act like it's a freaking, like a golf club or something,
Yeah, well, and here they're just, an hour or so away from, they've got I'm looking at one of the Washington Post articles, and they've got, it says, is Bilderberg a conference on world affairs or a powerful global cabal? Depends on who you ask. And then they've got somebody writing a sign here with an Infowars.com shirt on.
Oh, boy. That's awesome. Hey, you know who used to call it the first person to call it a cabal, a global cabal, was Winston Churchill. He used to refer to
I knew it had to be
an unseen group.
Right.
But I'm going to try to find this quote. This is a Bilderberg quote.
And Goldwater and Eisenhower and all the greatest political minds of the past have all warned against this thing, have all brought it to the forefront, and we're silly for covering it because their bosses are in the friggin' building making decisions about how they're going to push propaganda, especially now that they've got the propaganda.
Not only propaganda, but global policy. And one of the things they're talking about right now in this conference is how to create a cashless society. And they're worried about bank runs. And this way you can't run and pull all your money out because there's no such thing of it, Hey, I want to read a quote, and I know you've heard this before, but since we're talking about the Washington Post, this was from David Rockefeller speaking this was back in 1991 at the Bilderberg meeting in Germany, and also Bill Clinton was there at the time. He was governor. But listen to this quote. Here's David Rockefeller. We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during those years. But the world is more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supernatural sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national auto-determination practiced in past centuries. Wow.
Talk about somebody pissing all over the Constitution.
Wow.
You know, and not only that, I mean, that statement is so treasonous, and it's been out there for so long. I think, I don't know how old he was, but he's about to turn 100 now. And and they're going to probably wheel him into the Bilderberg Hotel over there.
I think he's dead. I think he's dead already. He's just real stubborn about it.
Well, his soul has been dead, you know, probably since he was a kid.
You can see that in his eyes. You know,
he's a scary
dude.
Eyes. Yeah, but you've got, and that's something I'm working on today. Is you've got one quote after another, year in, year out, and then they come out and they say that
Kissinger quotes on it.
Yeah, Kissinger. I think, you know, Goldwater's stance on it should have woken up the whole country, but they shut him down. And, you know, and then you've got people like Gates and the folks over at Google all saying talking about AI and how it's going to create this new technocracy, and they're all excited about it.
Regina Dugan is her name, and she is a Google executive.
Yeah.
She is the former DARPA director, and that is one of the things on their topic list is she is leading a whole topic discussion on artificial intelligence. Now, remember, this was the cheerleader, and she says it's already FDA approved. In fact, she's bragging that ingestible microchips, right? This is not a sci-fi movie. This is real approval. It's approved by the FDA. They have ingestible microchips that she is telling mostly a young audience, too, that it'll give them superpowers. And that is because if you swallow a couple of these a day, I guess somehow you'll be able to unlock doors. You know, this is a way you can get in and out of your vehicle.
These people they've lost their minds.
Isn't that is just some spooky shit.
I mean, what about their kids? You know, what about their families? They don't realize this scares the bejesus juice out of them too. I mean, the thing is Americans.
Well, she's a creepy woman anyway, man. Just a look at her. She looks like the devil's daughter, you know.
There's no telling. There's no telling what, you know. I mean, there's plenty of evidence to show what these people do behind the scenes, but their souls are so corrupted that they have.
Yeah, there's a whole spiritual aspect to this whole thing too, and you and I both agree on that. And but hey, it's good to be on the good side of that, isn't it, my brother?
Absolutely. I mean, it's really important for everyone else to feel that way too. I mean, this country. We will lose this country, this young country of the United States, if we don't stick to the moral fiber of our being. You know,
there's time for people to grow up. It really is, because, you know, I'm as patriotic as the next person, but you know, you take patriotic to a realm that's irresponsible. You know, you don't just every war we go into, God bless America, and let's go kick ass and take names. You know,
well,
come on.
You saw Dice out there.
Wars. We're fighting for corporations and for global governance, you know, and taking other people's resources and imperial control. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You know, go read up on the Panama deception. See if that war was justified.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, none of these wars were justified. They're all started by the globalists, and for people
and the interior
don't grow up and look into this stuff, it's really being irresponsible, man. To me, it's almost like you got someone in your family that's beating his wife, right, or his girlfriend, and she's got black eyes and she covers up with makeup, and everybody pretends like it's not happening.
Right.
No. You can't. You got to stop pretending like it's not happening, man.
Yeah, we're the older brother that comes back from being on the road for too long and sits at the dinner table, and the family's all ignoring it. And you know, and we're looking at our sister with a black eye sitting next to this sniveling little turd.
WTF question mark,
launches over the dinner table.
About to get an ass whooping.
Yeah, launches over the table and smashes his face into his mashed potatoes. That's who we are, and that's who everyone else at the dinner table needs to help. You know,
absolutely.
So, man, we could talk for hours, and I don't want to. Well, maybe people would listen, but we'll stick with the week here. Just go over real quick. Dennis Hastert looks like kind of a diversion. That he was kind of this, of course he's a sick bastard who molested wrestling his manager when he was a wrestling coach, and he's obviously homosexual, and who cares? But when it comes down to them hiding it, and the fact that the majority of Congress, the growing majority, is homosexual, and they're all hiding it, and the growing majority of Congress is also into pedophilia, because they have to integrate themselves with the rest of the world leaders who are also into pedophilia. You also see the United Nations involved in huge, when they're sent to Haiti or they're sent to North Africa, they're raping the crap out of the kids under 15 there, and there's a huge crisis.
Look up DynCorp. Look up DynCorp. If anybody doesn't believe this shit, look up DynCorp. Look at Cynthia McKinney when she approached Donald Rumsfeld in a congressional hearing and asked about DynCorp and their child kidnapping range. Anyway, go ahead.
Help me out here. Who was the congresswoman in Georgia who was basically
Cynthia McKinney?
That was her. Okay, she was taken out. Yeah, they took her and her husband out.
Yeah, and they also said, we'll get back to you on that one. Oh, I wasn't aware of that. We'll get back to you on that. They were busted, DynCorp, man, sex trafficking, absolutely.
So when you see somebody
and you
like
can also look up the, I can't remember it, man.
The scandal in
Franklin cover-up.
Franklin cover-up. That's on YouTube, and you can find the documentary that they wouldn't air. And it will
came close to it, man.
It will turn your stomach.
Days, and they stopped that.
It went all the way up. It went all the way up to the White House. Went right into the Bush White House, man.
Sure enough.
I mean, but the thing is, so they throw Dennis Hastert out into the arena of public opinion. We're all in the Coliseum, watching him being attacked. While, you always, people like us, conspiracy theorists. I'm not. You're not a scientist, are you? Are you in some lab putting conspiracies together and seeing if they'll work? No, we just happen to be reading what everyone else refuses to read, and it's backed up by truth. So,
conspiracy realist.
Well, real quick, that also, this whole debate about climate change. People will say, do you believe in climate change? Yeah, I believe in climate change. Climate change has been going on since the beginning of the planet Earth. What you believe in is something called climate determinism or climate catastrophicism or something like that. It's when people actually believe in actual conspiracy theory brought out by Al Gore so he could put tons of money in his pockets. That is not climate change.
I mean, goodness, and the whole taxation.
And we're the theorists. So every time
climate change on Mars too.
Yeah, every time you see the flooding down in Texas here recently, or two tornadoes coming out of a cloud, somebody's just immediately, it must be climate change. No, those things have been happening. Mother Earth has been doing these weird things for a long time, and once we're gone and Al Gore is laying in his grave, surrounded by his gold doubloons, it'll still be going on, and it'll be climate change.
Well, according to Gore, I think the polar ice caps were supposed to be melted by now, aren't they? Didn't we pass that?
Yeah.
Because I mean, that documentary was quite a.
I think any political leader who maxed down on his wife in front of that many people just ought to be just ignored. So moving on, so Hastert's a diversion, and then the border crisis numbers were spiking up on June the 9th. It's starting to resemble the surge of 2014 right here in our Nave of the Forest, our neck of the woods. And they're not doing anything about that. And then,
well, they ring Obama's ring the dinner bell. Come and get it. Come on down. I mean, and when people, when you say border crisis, immediately what comes to mind to a lot of people are the illegal Mexican alien. But tell people who else. Iranian. I mean, people. I mean, what do they call it? Other than Mexican, right? Mm-hmm. That's not our term. That's the official term with the Border Patrol and the Texas Border Volunteers. They call it other than Mexican.
It's pushing 70%.
There's people from Turkey. There's people from Iranian to English translation books, Muslim prayer rugs, Iranian cash.
And they're
on the border coming into Texas, right?
And this rubs,
come on.
And the way that you're saying it might, filter out and rub people the wrong way, like they're thinking, well, they just must be racist. Well, the problem is we actually went down to the valley and we covered the border crisis, which they won't call it a crisis in mainstream media. They call it like a, the crisis is the fact that there's not enough people here, is their opinion. But we were down there. And the people that are really concerned about what's going on the border? Mexican Americans. Mexican Americans.
Absolutely.
Because they're the ones that are concerned.
I got Mexican friends, Latino family that lives next door to me, and they hate it. Of course, they came there legally and everything, but also the government, and it doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat. They try to this war on terror. The war on terror. We're trying to stop. That's why we've got. That's why we got the TSA hands down our pants when we go to the airport, and that's why all these checkpoints. And they're trying to sell the public on this war on terror. So it's a bunch of horse crap. Because why, if it was legit, right? If it was a legitimate freaking war on terror, why would the borders be wide open?
Absolutely.
Right? Why? I mean, they're just coming in. You got Muslim prayer rugs.
Oh, I've never.
You got Iranian cash. They want something to happen. And Alex Jones said it best. I think he said this also goes
Alex
to destabilizing Alex Jones, destabilizing regions. The CIA has done this, since their conception. I mean, since the very beginning of the CIA, they go into different countries and they destabilize it and then go in there and take it over. They're doing the same thing to Syria. They're doing the same thing to our country. But it's basically order out of chaos. You just create all this chaos in an area and destabilize it. So by inviting or busing in these illegal aliens, they want a terrorist attack.
Absolutely.
If it's not an inside job and they don't orchestrate it themselves, if it happens. And what Alex said was, if somebody puts 100 Black Widows in your bed, you're going to want to kill them all. Obviously, you want to kill each one of those Black Widows. But who's the real bad guy? It's the person who put the Black Widows. That's the real person you want to take out, is whoever's putting those Black Widows in.
Right.
So terrorist activity among Americans, and they're creating these CIA and Saudi Arabian intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, just like they did Al Qaeda, they created this Frankenstein monster ISIS. They still support them. They still arm them, train them, fund them. And that's the sad truth, and it's documented. I mean, go research Zero Hedge, has amazing documents.
Mm-hmm.
Ellsberg from the Pentagon Papers, he's on our side. He's looked at the evidence. Daniel Ellsberg from the Pentagon Papers, man, he says USA created ISIS.
Yeah.
And there's more and more people. Time Magazine's 2002 Person of the Year, FBI, she's former FBI. I'm going to have to look up her name. Good. Rowley is her name. Mm-hmm. Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Colleen Rowley, retired FBI special agent. She's out there voicing her opinion and basically speaking out, saying ISIS is a Western intelligence entity, and so it's very exciting too, because it is something that we've been saying from the very beginning.
Well, it's
also good when people,
it's this strategy that we're under in this country, that the government is our mama and daddy. The thing is like, if your mom and dad.
That's what Chris Rock said. That's what Chris Rock said. Remember about Obama?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. That's the beauty of Hollywood, is that it is waking up more and more. But
Obama.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you knew your dad had killed your two brothers and buried them in the backyard, and you were trying to tell everybody, and everyone was saying, just be quiet, your dad knows best.
Yeah.
It's the same situation. Yesterday, the Washington Post, this was actually in a bunch of publications, but this is pretty positive. This is a Washington Post article. Secret CIA effort in Syria faces large funding cut. Now, they're not going to report it like like Infowars.com would report it next week, but this says right here that key lawmakers have moved to slash funding of a secret CIA operation to train and arm rebels in Syria. Rebels, a move that U.S. officials said reflects rising skepticism of the effectiveness of the agency program and the Obama administration's strategy in the Middle East. So they try to make it sound professional when, in fact, the whole operation is crumbling. The House Intelligence Committee recently voted unanimously to cut as much as 20% of the classified funds flowing into a CIA program that U.S. officials said has become one of the agency's largest covert operations, with a budget approaching $1 billion a year. And ISIS, after a year, is sitting on how much money? A little over, well, in estimation, something over $2 billion, as far as anyone can estimate. So their whole plan is falling apart. The problem is,
well, that's good. And I was just going to say real quick that some people are going, well, which is it, guys? Do you like the Washington Post or do you not like them? Right. First, you're saying they're not credible because they covered up for Bilderberg, and now you're quoting them. And I'm going to tell them, everybody that's listening right now, this is the deal. It's about the drumbeat, okay? So every once in a while, the mainstream media, you will find truth in the mainstream media. And there's also writers and investigative journalists. Some, they're very rare. They'll try to tell the truth. They'll get cut out. You'll never see them in a White House press conference. And if you do, they'll ask that one question. They'll never be invited back. But there is truth in mainstream media here and there, but they don't beat the drum. It's not the
they
top
also
of the
twist
page.
it.
It's always in the back somewhere, and you really got to research to find it. But it's awesome that they're putting that in there.
Well, for example, the other reason to use mainstream media is the fact that that's all people believe. You'll sit there and explain to them. Hey,
True.
Hey, did you hear that there was $1 billion budget that the Congress is now looking at that was being funneled to the CIA in a covert operation? You tell somebody that, and they'll say, yeah, well, where did you read that? They always say that.
Yeah.
And then
that's why we do it on Infowars, too. We will write an article about that, and then we use our source.
And you say the Washington Post, and then they say, well, I guess I'll have to go read that. And then they'll read it, and they'll say, well, it wasn't saying exactly going to the conclusion you were going to. Well, of course it wasn't, because the chief editor at the Washington Post has got people in Bilderberg right now, so they have to twist it as much as they can. And not only that, the propaganda gloves are off. They're gonna say it, but they can't get past the fact that in reality, Congress is looking at $1 billion secretive covert budget, and where is that going to lead? It looks like the whole thing's falling apart. And while we're on ISIS, on let's see, what day was this? This was June 10th. Confirmed ISIS has enough radioactive material to create a dirty bomb. So world leaders in Australia, in here in America, were politicians here in America were warning that ISIS, not only did they go and rob all the banks in Iraq and Syria, but they went to all the hospitals where they've basically put together enough radioactive material in order to create a massive weapon of mass destruction. And,
wow. I wonder how ISIS, boy, they must be really organized, man. And it's these pilots, too, these Air Force pilots that keep over and over again accidentally dropping all these weapons caches to ISIS. I mean, wow. It's just, and then how do, in Libya, how did they get the surface-to-air missiles, and then Ambassador Anderson just happens to die, when he was going to say something about that. And it's just very strange, isn't it? That they keep getting more and more powerful. That they're riding around on frickin' MRAPs, cutting Christians' heads off. And my God, how does it happen? I just don't get it.
I just don't think he should go there. That's what.
Well, another thing, when they're riding on this, 3-mile freaking long convoy with brand new Toyotas, and then now they got MRAP tanks. Now they've got, my God. You think the United States of America couldn't do just a massive freaking bombing and take them out? And I hate to see, like, a lot of our guys in our military just, hoorah, they can't wait to go in there and kick some ass and take out ISIS. And, of course, they're beheading Christians, and these guys are evil, evil bastards.
Well, to take out Assad.
The spiders in the bed. It's back to the Black Widows in the bed again.
Well, to take out Assad.
We're creating these evil bastards.
Well, and everyone rallies to take out Assad because, he has some ties to Moscow, but he also has been vilified by these supposed gas attacks, which all led back to al-Nusra, another, part of the whole ISIS movement.
He had nothing. That was a false flag. He had nothing to do with that chemical attack.
But people don't realize that the folks at Bilderberg are sitting there with a gigantic Risk board, and they're the Rothschilds are playing Risk.
Hey, they're at Zygmunt Brzezinski's grand chessboard. He's probably got a real life-size freaking model there on the table.
And they're like they're Syria. Recently they got Libya, and they really screwed up Egypt, and now the only thing left here is a few little places on that board, and they need them.
Well, hey man, it was just 8 or 9 years ago. 4-star General Wesley Clark. He said that we were going to overthrow Syria. That was planned all the way back shortly after 9/11. He said, "Hey man, he's right there."
He went in. Didn't you get the memo? We're going to take over 7 different countries.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's also, if people should look up the Project for a New American Century, the PNAC documents. All this was planned. This was basically the current course of events in the Middle East was predetermined by the United States.
Yeah, but Darrin, I really wish you wouldn't bring up your sister's black eyes. Not at the dinner table. Not at the dinner table. Don't look. Just don't look at her. Don't look at her and him. Yeah. Even though he's over there with his shirt open and he's got all gold jewelry hanging around.
Well, you know what though? He's wearing the wife beater. He's got a spaghetti stain on his shirt. Yeah. My sister's got 2 black eyes. But you know what? He promised me.
He's chewing his gum while he's
money,
eating.
And he's going to invest a lot of money on this company I want. So that's how it goes.
Yeah. He's going to mow the yard later. So we don't want to get him upset. He's going to mow the yard.
So what else going on, man? You've been putting a lot of reports out lately. You were on the Alex Jones show the other day. I caught some of that.
Yeah, well, the TAA TPA, the fast track. Obama got his ass handed to him. Man, it was great.
Was that a surprise? I was kind of surprised about that.
Yeah, I was too. I was, I'm so used to everything just being
You're so used to Monsanto having their way, or any corporation or whatever, and this is all about big corporations getting their way.
Well, and the fact that that Congress is basically a corporatocracy now. I just couldn't believe that there was some kind of Democratic spark there. Out of Pelosi, but you got to look at Pelosi had a variety of reasons why she turned. He came in.
Well, I never trust what she's doing.
Yeah, he scurried over to the Capitol and begged his own party, which is, he's a Democratic president, a liberal Democratic president. All these liberal Democrats back him on everything he says, and he's over there begging them, and they're saying no. To vote on
a house of cards, man.
Yeah, to vote on a deal, the TAA, which basically is made to protect. If jobs switch hands from the United States to say Vietnam, it's supposed to protect the welfare of the jobs that got lost here. But the Republicans in the Senate had pulled the part out of the bill saying that say if there's 20,000 workers here in Michigan, and the job went to somewhere in Laos or whatever, that they wouldn't get welfare. They would just be thrown out on the street. And that's what the Republicans want.
Well, and that's the other thing, too. So are we going to learn a lot more? Because, lobbyists from America's biggest corporations, Wall Street's biggest banks, they were all involved, but not the American public. We still don't know what's in the damn thing. You know what I mean? I think it's interesting. I hope it all comes out, because I know that pharmaceutical corporations, for example, they were going to get stronger. They were having, some patent issues where I think it was almost like where pharmaceutical companies can't get sued for vaccinations if they damage you and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
well,
hopefully we're going to find out what was in this sumbitch.
Yeah. And not only that, beyond the pharmaceutical end of it, there's I think we'll find out once he's out of office probably, and has flown off and taken Michelle and his kids down to somewhere in South America, because man, he's caused a lot of irreparable damage, and Bush Senior, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, even Jimmy Carter's involvement in the Rand Corporation and the think tanks and being involved in all that. These they got they've had a lot of power plays on the American people. And I think they pissed us off enough. But going back to the TPP, the TISA, the TISA, is a secret trade agreement that will usurp America's authority to make immigration policy from the Economic Policy Institute. So that was discovered by, I think it was Breitbart. They got the documents from WikiLeaks, and they actually gave them to a bona fide professional immigration policy person who could actually look at it in detail, and they came back and said, this basically gives Obama total executive authority over immigration. So do
me a favor and send that to me, or are you going to do a report on that pretty soon?
I may next week.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I may next week do a report on the parts of the TPP that are still secret, because the TAA wasn't secret. The TPA is an old, that goes back in the past. That's the fast track. But, and then the other one was had to do with customs and exchange of different types of foreign money and all that. It wasn't that important.
And that passed in the TPA. Outsource jobs. The whole thing stinks.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that the reason, the TPA did pass, so they've resurrected that old Frankenstein. It's lurking around the United States right now. It's gonna have 5 years, but Obama, being the lame duck that he is, and now he's gonna really have to sit back and lick his wounds, because this country, even his own party, just told him to get the hell out.
Yeah, that was good. It was a good day.
But the problem is you get a Jeb Bush in there, and that TPA it's already there.
Well, that's the thing, because the Republicans are really pushing for it.
All he has to do is just attach. It's kind of like a transformer,
Yeah, what they'll do is they'll rename it something else. And I said this I was anchoring the news the other night. I don't know if you remember when I was saying how, and this could go with anything. This could be, I was doing it with gun regulations, but I call it the 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? I heard that. Yeah.
Now, the way they do this is they will introduce some ridiculous, outlandish gun regulations that'll piss off millions of people, and everybody's like in an outrage saying, no, this is ridiculous. And then the Republicans step in as the saviors, right? And these, congressional members and senators will step in and they'll say, hey, no, we're not going to allow this to happen.
Synthesis.
Right?
Yep.
And then the Democrats will step in and they'll say, well, hey, let's compromise. Mm-hmm. Let's meet halfway on this issue. And then the Republicans say, okay, that's good, because we don't want that whole thing, just some of it. And that's how they work together. And so it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Well, that still equals 1 step forward towards gun restrictions or gun regulation. Yep. And they do that across the board with so many different things.
Yeah, it's the Hegelian dialectic.
With GMOs, it just goes on, and it's a very clever tactic.
It's so bizarre that most of our lawmakers are twisting and turning at night and scratching their heads during the day when they're what we would call conscious, and their main concern is how they're going to take the American public's mindset and twist it.
Yeah, you can go back to Edward Bernays, man. This is straight out of a propaganda handbook. It's been going on, and now people are just getting really dumbed down through the bad food, through brainwashing on television, through vaccines, our culture is stupid, man. I say that America right now is the most least informed and the most entertained society in history. However, at the same time, there is a great awakening going on, and thank God, because Al Gore's internet, because of the internet has changed everything. Yeah, I was one of those dumbasses. You know, I was a huge conservative. Oh my goodness, when we went into the Gulf War, I was just, let's go, you know, gung-ho, God bless America, Whitney Houston singing the national anthem at the Super Bowl when we were going into the Gulf War I. I thought this is the greatest country on earth. And I was really stupid and didn't understand what was going on. But because of the internet, we have an open source of millions and millions and millions of documents and all these different opinions. And it's so enlightening and it's so exciting.
And it's so new. You know,
we're so blessed to be in at this time. And it is dire straits, man. It couldn't have come at a better time because we have to change this. And people need to understand there's such a beautiful world that we could create, that we have technology that's available that you know, we don't have to pay these high utility bills. We don't have to. There's so much good out there, and the more people wake up, the more it's going to happen.
Yeah, well, you know, Thomas Jefferson said the selfish spirit of commerce knows no country and feels no passion or principle but that of gain, and that's the spirit that's over there right now at Bilderberg, and you know. Those people are heartless, cruel bastards, and they've all learned how to be ruthless, you know. And we're reaching a point where the United States is gonna see. I would hope that it's not a violent revolution for the sake of, because it's not going to be a civil war between black and white in our culture and all that.
Well, they would like that. Though.
There might be something that would go down for a week, but we'd all get together, you know, as Kennedy said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. And it's not a violent revolution against American. It's going to be us against the daggone people that are in control of everything. It's pretty obvious. Yeah. And there's too much, as you said, too much information out there to stop that from happening.
Yeah. And what we got to be very, very careful about is, like, if I was in Cuba back in the late 50s, I would have been fighting right alongside with Che Guevara and Fidel Castro. But unfortunately, what happened afterwards, I was like, oh, now we got communism? No, wait, that's not what I wanted. You know? Right. I wanted to get away from this dictatorship and everything. And you know, the more you know about history, a lot of that was the fault of the United States kind of pushing them toward the Soviet Union. You know, we could have done a lot better diplomatically and all that. So
well, I think the American people.
But, after a revolution, we need to make sure we have a constitutional convention. The Constitution works. We are constitutionalists. We know it works. You could say it failed because of the state we're in right now. That is untrue. We have not abided by the Constitution. It's being ignored. And if we just abide by the rules, we have to have media reform. We have to have voter reform. And baby, after that, it is a whole new world, and it'll be the great experiment will succeed.
Yep. Yeah. You know, Barron, the way I got into it, because I always suspected the power of government, but I had no idea how corrupt it was and how far back it went. So my way in was I went on the internet and started studying this shadowy Rothschild group. You know, it's Baron Nathan Mayer Rothschild who said it, that he cares not what puppet is placed on the throne of England back in the day to rule the empire. The man that controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the money supply. And he ended up controlling
the war.
Yeah, exactly. So and they've been ruling ever since, and they've been funding wars to fund themselves ever since quietly. And you know, they are you know, you look at Forbes and you look at every year they'll have a list of the richest people in the world, and it's, you know, Buffett and, you know, the dude that owns the Chinese version of eBay, and, you know, Bill Gates and all that, and Fat Daddy Slim down there in Mexico. But it's actually the Rothschilds who are reported to, much like ISIS, we don't have a clear number, but at this point,
because aren't they just completely off the chart? I mean, they don't even register.
It may be more than the total planet's GDP.
Yeah,
it's trillions and trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
these people are in a whole nother realm of snobbery. They're genocidal,
and they're like the worst tippers at Bilderberg. Like all the cooks and the waiters and the waitresses, they say they don't even get tipped. It's like
they don't get tipped, and they talk to everybody after they leave, because at first they're like, nah, we got to do our job, I actually had an experience where I was picked to cut meet in a small party room at Keeneland Racetrack in Lexington, Kentucky, for the Queen Mum of England, and just handpicked out of that. The Queen Mum. And I was told they told all of us before we went in to look at the ground, do not speak unless spoken to, and you know, we're talking about Kentucky here. Like, everybody in Kentucky's like, hey, how you doing?
Screw that.
How you doing? What you want on your plate there? You know, what you drinking? You know, but
I haven't heard that story. That's funny.
All these Kentuckians standing in there staring at the ground. You know, it's weird. But they tipped us each like $350 afterwards. But you know,
there you go.
Yeah, but they didn't speak to us. So and there was definitely a coldness and frankly, you know, being in Kentucky and you know, it's like that in the deep South and in the South.
Yeah.
People just generally want to. There really aren't a whole lot of. There's not a whole stranger mentality like there is. You go to New York City and people don't open doors or look you in the eyes. It's not like that down here. People want to know who you are. They want to. The bad thing is they want to get up in your business. But you know, they're
just happy to see you. They're happy to see you.
They want to be your friend. They want to know. They want to know what you know. You know, so you know, why wouldn't a Kentuckian want to know what the Queen Mum knows? What's that like being a Queen Mum? You know, but
hey, I got a little joke for you. Why did the Libertarian cross the road?
Why?
None of your damn business. Am I being detained? It's kind of stupid, but it's funny.
I like it. I like it. I like it a lot.
It's a Facebook post I saw today. None of your damn business. Am I being detained? Woo! I tell you what, two-party system is dying. Nobody trusts it. People got to know, man. Republicans and Democrats are on the same team. That's good cop, bad cop.
Well, and
they want nothing more. Hey, just try to introduce a third party, you know. And we saw what happened. And sometimes I use Ron Paul as an example. Well, he did not run as a Libertarian. He ran as a Republican because he had to. But we got to change that, man.
Well, and the main message to get out there to people so it can click, because people have been hearing about the paradigm for so long. Democrat and Republican, they're all on the same team, and some people will be like, well, this guy, he's Democrat, but he's not on the same team, blah, 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 blah. No, it's a corporatocracy. That's the paradigm.
Yeah.
This is a corporation.
So stuck in that left-right. It just is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, Alex Jones' his son went out there and he's doing more reports. How old is Rex now? 12?
Yeah,
13?
he's not little anymore.
He's so smart.
Yeah.
But he went out there, and I thought, you know, he was talking to somebody, and this lady says she wanted to know when he was asking questions on camera, and she says, "Wait a minute, are you a Republican or a Democrat?" And it was a really good-looking black lady.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And Rex says, "I'm a Libertarian."
She didn't know what that was,
and she didn't even know. You could see in her face, she didn't even know what the hell that meant.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, good, because I just want to make sure that this wasn't some anti-Obama."
Right, but it is.
Because if he said Republican, it would automatically been anti-Obama, but Libertarian, she had no clue.
It's not so much anti-Obama, and that's the other thing is everyone looks at him as our dear leader. And they don't realize he's just this he's just the busser at the restaurant, man. He's just the busser at the restaurant, folks.
He's the Manchurian candidate. I call him the ghost president. We don't even know this guy's past, man.
Yeah, the people at Bilderberg are the cooks back in the kitchen, and the general manager of the restaurant, who's not even at the restaurant, is somebody that, you know, we mentioned earlier. There's a handful of people that are all involved in these very secretive, conspiratorial organizations that are very old and can be found on the internet if you feel like checking them out. But You know, this is really going on. The stuff that we see in the movies, you know, fact is stranger than fiction. This is all really happening. But the beauty of it is that there is an awakening slowly happening, and we've had some victories here recently. And
the question is, what side of history do you want to be on? You know, when your grandkids are older and grow up, and years from now, how do you want to be remembered? And how does your soul want to be remembered for eternity? You know, what side of history are you on? You got to be responsible. We all got to wake up, and we all got to fight for this thing, man.
When's the last time you felt courageous instead of brainwashed and fearful?
Yeah.
You know, we were at the bar the other night, and we were watching the finals, and some guy yelled out, "There's bananas! Bananas! It's racist! Bananas!" There were bananas behind the bench, and he was yelling out, "Those bananas are racist! They're gonna like." He was having a freak out moment right there of total liberal democratic fear. You know, and I'm just.
So he thought because bananas were back there, being like, wow.
He thought there was going to be an incident. You know.
Wow.
And the truth is, like, all I saw was bananas, but he saw being this fearful, controlled, manipulated individual. He saw a lot more than that. So that's what people are seeing with their fear. They think that we're blowing things out of proportion. We're not. We're minimizing the truth into and funneling it into. And that's the other thing is the sources that you go over, Darrin.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be legitimate sources.
Yeah,
you're not going to.
Hey, that's when I anchor the news, man. I always tend to go off on a history lesson sometimes, but I think it's just important because it's like, look, here's what's going on. Here's what we talk about ISIS, for example, and I'm just like, as far as Syria goes, look up the PNAC documents. Look at Zbigniew Brzezinski and the Grand Chessboard. I mean, this stuff was all written about. This is all forecasted. This has been their plan. It's a blueprint. It's going to happen. Now it's happening. And it's also, look at the CIA's whole history. My God.
Well, the Federal Reserve is...
and this is what they've been doing.
The Federal Reserve is 100 years old.
Fight and conquer.
The Federal Reserve is 100 years old. It was made by these people. That's it.
There's nothing federal about the Federal Reserve. It's a banking cartel, offshore banking cartel. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You know, it's just as federal or no more federal than Federal Express, right?
Well, Milton Friedman, Nobel Prize-winning economist, said the Federal Reserve definitely caused the Great Depression by contracting the amount of currency in circulation by a third from 1929 to 1933. I mean,
Google search Jekyll Island, Federal Reserve, 1913. You know, people start. You know, I'm telling you what, get Ron Paul's book and the Fed.
Well, I feel like sometimes I feel like filing a lawsuit against the entire government for wasting my time and my family's time with all this nonsense.
Yeah.
Because we've got to deal with all this crap. And in a perfect democratic, free, constitutional society, we could be concerned about so many other things, man. That
How much does the average American pay in taxes now? What's the percentage? I don't even know. Is it 30% yet?
It's probably 25, 26.
All right, yeah, it's getting up there, you know.
Yeah.
What was the percentage when the Revolutionary War started? 3%.
Those were donations.
I think it's about 3% taxes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like people just have no idea, man.
Well, everyone's too busy working. Everyone's too busy working, and you work your extra part-time job too, and then you get home and you watch a movie, you watch Netflix, and then you do it all over again.
News, and you get Bill O'Reilly, or you get MSNBC or something, and that's all you know.
We're like a bunch of squirrels out collecting nuts for the winter, you know, and the lion walks over with all the courage, and he's not doing anything, and the squirrel's like, well, you better get to work, and the lion's like, you know, they're taking Africa over, don't you? The squirrel's like, I don't care about that. I got to get them nuts, you know. So, and the lion, you know. Well, Robespierre said, any institution which does not suppose the people good and the magistrate corruptible is evil. And that dude turned around and chopped off a ton of aristocrats and, magistrates' heads. This we have
off with the heads.
Well, and that any institution which does not suppose the people good. So instantly, here we have the TSA in our airports at the football games. We're all guilty. Yeah, every American is guilty. We're being listened to.
Hey, I got another theory on the TSA real quick. I know this hour's almost up, but
yeah.
Okay, the mark of the beast. They want to chip, and let's say even if you're not a Christian and you don't believe in this whole mark of the beast system, whatever. Hey, regardless, Big Brother's watching, and they want plantable microchips on everyone. Okay, so that's we know they're talking about it. They're talking about it at Bilderberg right now.
Well, and the funny thing is that's in the news now, and years ago that just sounded crazy. But now,
it's not crazy. But check this out: the TSA, when they put their hands down your pants and they make it totally embarrassing and humiliating to go through those lines. They've already, in fact, it was a CNN reporter, and I did a report on this. They can YouTube search 666. It has begun. But the CNN reporter, he was talking about in the future, in 2015, that they will be able to go through, and as long as they're microchipped, they will be able to go through without the pat down. And he says, with respect, you'll be able to go in with respect, and that's part of, I think, they're conditioning everyone, and also, and I just went to the X Games and we had to wear wristbands
RFID
to get in, right? And then you have to go over and you have to wave your wrist over an RFID reader.
Man, what a total waste of everybody's time, man. There's just a handful of people making all this happen, and it's this transgender GMO eating bully that's is raised by billionaires, and he's in the schoolyard, and there's the rest of us just trying to learn and be at school, and he's controlling the school with all of his money and all that, and he goes out in the schoolyard and bosses us around and tries to make us afraid. Eventually, we are going to kick his ass.
Yep.
I mean,
that's right.
That's what it's going to come down to, I'm not saying there needs to be a violent revolution. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that by waking up,
an ass whooping could be just a total regime
and it's happening.
And we're not.
They didn't see the internet coming.
Gandhi had a nonviolent revolution, so
I don't think
it's going to go that way. But hey, if they try to take our guns, it's not going to be pretty.
Well, if we were still relying on Encyclopedia Britannica and the occasional conspiracy theorists, because if going back in the past, it was the conspiracy theorists that read the books that we now tout as knowing way ahead of time what was going on, and then the only other information you could get was from an encyclopedia, and you'd look up Rothschild and they tell you how great they are. Now all of their dirty laundry is all over the internet. You want to know how evil Henry Kissinger is? I mean, right down to the war crimes and the molestation of children and all that stuff. It's all out there, and he's over there making decisions about my life, about your life, and about everyone else's life right now. Crazy, psychopathic, sick, disgusting people that need to be locked up are making decisions about us.
That's right. You nailed it, buddy. You nailed it.
Well, thanks for being on the program. It's been an hour here with Darrin McBreen of Infowars.com. Check him out. And you can always find him on Facebook.com at Infowars.com, right? On the Facebook?
Yeah, I'm actually in charge of the Facebook pages now. So as of yesterday, I don't know if I told you that. So you're going to start, Facebook is going to be looking a lot better. I got Alex Jones, Real Alex Jones, Infowars.com, Infowars Nightly News. It's, we don't have enough manpower. We're a small operation, and it just, some stuff needs to be. Let me give you an example. They had it set up where anybody could post a video on the Real Alex Jones channel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then so what happens is a lot of people will post videos, or they'll even post news links, and it'll be on Infowars.com Facebook, and it'll be, and I hate to use a conspiracy theorist word, but it's like UFOs took down the Twin Towers, I mean, just
Right.
stupid stuff.
Right.
And they'll post that on our Facebook page, and then someone will look at it and go, oh my God, InfoWars is ridiculous, because they think it's actually us doing it.
Which
so
is
I'm
really
cleaning all that up. All that's gone.
Good.
Gone. So.
Which is really interesting, because the only stories that I ever see about UFOs on InfoWars, and they're very rare, are debunking the UFOs. You know, there'll be a UFO somewhere and everyone's freaking out about what it is, and then InfoWars, Kurt Nimmo or Watson or somebody will do a story on it saying, no, this is what it actually was.
We even debunked lots of chemtrail stuff too. You guys believe in chemtrails? Well, geoengineering.
Well, that's the controlled troll media corporate. It's a layer. And it's a small layer, but unfortunately it does get a large reach. But yeah, that stuff needs to be turned on its face.
I'm going to work on the credibility, because we do have some credibility issues here and there, and it's a lot of this because of stuff like that people posting on our behalf that's not us and that sort of thing. So
all right, let's we'll put an end to this, because I just noticed your sister walked in with 2 black eyes and bruises all over, and her boyfriend's here. So let's go ahead and put an end to this show, and let's go take Rupert out back and have a talk with him, because nobody else will.
I think someone's about to get an ass whipping. So
okay, well, let's go. Yeah, here comes Rupert now. Thanks for listening to Lest We Forget here at iTunes and dailynewscollective.com. Check out the website, subscribe at dailynewscollective.com, and check out our podcast there at iTunes. It's called Lest We Forget. You can also find it at Daily News Collective. Thanks again. I'm your host, Jon Bowne, and we'll speak at you next week.